From the breakdown comes the breakthrough. This is a topic that was covered in a two-part interview series. I was a guest on the Mastering Life's Adventures podcast with Dr. Judith Holder. That the link is in our bio if you want to watch the whole thing. If you are someone who is in the breakdown, then let's chat, because is where it takes everything in you to just open your eyes in the morning type of space. And feel like majority of people with living with any kind of chronic illness have had this experience, and probably numerous times, and they become more and more frequent the further into disease state you go and the longer disease has progressed for. And what is interesting about this state, though, is if you have the right tools, it can ignite the breakthrough. And I'd love to give you a good example of this in something that has nothing to do with autoimmune. And yet the process is the same. When I was 20 years old, I was asked to volunteer at a shelter called the Lorena shelter. I was the first volunteer ever invited into the shelter, where they housed women and children who were escaping domestic abuse. And what was interesting about this place is it could be government officials' wives or gang members, partners, or people that were living in the slums. Very interesting. But each one of those women were in the depths of despair. Many of the children too, but they were in the depths. This was going to be the hardest period of their lives. And they were exhausted. When they show up, they're exhausted. I've seen women that had more black and blue in their body than they did their natural skin tone. And there was one case in particular. We had 21 days to rehab these women and to help with the children. And 21 days. And it was a group run by a group of Franciscan nuns. And you never would have known that. That's a story for another time. They're amazing humans. And so there I was in here, and we have this woman come in. And then a few days later, she wants to go and get her stuff from the house. So we ensure that the police come and escort them to the house, that they are not alone, they're protected. And this is going to be a trigger alert. So trigger warning, if you're in a very sensitive mode, don't listen to those next things, but the outcome is great. So the police get there with her, and on the front door, there was the family dog nailed to the door. That's it. So essentially saying to her, this is you if I find you. And so she was terrified. She had 3 daughters. The oldest daughter was acting very promiscuous and very angry, rightfully so. And then the other 2 were just very underdeveloped. And because they'd been living in this terror for God knows how long. And so we had 3 weeks, 21 days. Through that time, men get to see other women that are further down the path. And so it helps to motivate them forward. And at the same time, it's the most difficult period of their life. It's probably the hardest 3 weeks of their life. And in that time, with this specific woman, I watched her go from completely beaten down and then suddenly being surrounded by a support community that gave her a hand up, not a handout, as my good friend Shannon says. It was amazing what happened. Within 3 weeks, she had a job. The kids were more in their childhood roles. The oldest child had reverted back into more childlike wonder and behavior. And then the other 2 were becoming more alive and in alignment with their developmental skills. 3 weeks. This is how fast the human brain can change and how quickly someone can change their lives when they decide. And it was the biggest thing about that I learned, is that you need to have that community and support. We are individuals, but we're not alone. And a lot of us are trained to be alone and, muster through it and be strong and be brave. And it was just because the people that taught us, they didn't know any better. And so that was the biggest piece that I had noticed going from breakdown to breakthrough is having someone hold your hand in that dark space that isn't afraid to get in there with you and knows the way out. So no matter what you're going through in life, it's seek that. And that's where the spark of inspiration will come into the breakthrough, is that step by tiny step with someone giving you that hand out, holding your hand through it. Just know if you are in breakdown, maybe this is the message, maybe there's another one coming. Accept it when it shows up. You'll get out of there. You'll get out of that breakdown. I hope you have an awesome day.